Hello, this is Luke from Orcs Head Magic, and today I'm giving you a standard deck tech video. This is a deck that I did play on game day for Aether Revolt. It's been improved a little bit since then, and I've actually got a sideboard for it. But this deck has definitely made me to start enjoying standard again. Absolutely love the concept of it. Of course, it's blue-red zombie emerge, you could sort of say. The whole basis of the deck is discarding stuff to the graveyard and just returning them back, emerging them, and comboing off each other. So firstly, as always, we'll start with the creatures. First of all, we're playing 4 Prized Amalgam, which, yes, we're only playing blue-red, and it does have a swamp in the mana cost, but we will never we won't ever be hard casting Prized Amalgam from our hand. This card is literally there just to discard into the graveyard, and of course, using this ability, getting it back on the end step. So whenever you are using any abilities which brings creatures back out from the graveyard at instant speed, make sure you do it at something like the end of their second main phase, just so Prized Amalgam can trigger at their end turn, because of course, I mean, this is why Prized Amalgam is such a good card. It's played in Modern as well. The fact that it can just come back out at the end step and you can just keep repeating this as long as you can keep getting creatures back out from the graveyard. The next card is a 4 of Stitchwing Skaab, which is one of our reanimating zombie cards. It's got flying, it's a 3/1, and of course you're gonna pay 1 colourless, 1 blue to discard 2 cards and then return it to the battlefield tapped. So again, this is instant speed, it'll combo off with Prized Amalgam, and of course you're discarding more cards from your hand which you want in the graveyard. Next card is Advanced Stitchwing, which is a more expensive, slightly stronger version of Stitchwing Skaab. Very similar ability, however, it's 5 mana to cast if you're going to hard cast it from your hand, 3/4, and it's 3 mana to discard 2 cards to return it back. So if you have the mana, I would probably choose Advanced Stitchwing to bring back over Stitchwing Skaab, just because during play, when you want to emerge a creature, Advanced Stitchwing is less mana intensive to emerge stuff with. The next set of creatures we have is a 1 of Wretched Gryff, which we are purely using this. Again, of course, it has card draw, which is good, but the main reason we're using this is to trigger Sanctum of Ugin, which we are hoping to find something like an Elder Deep-fiend, which we are playing a 4 of. Elder Deep-fiend is sort of the second part to the deck. You've got the first part where you're reanimating stuff with the zombies, and then you have Elder Deep-fiend, which is pretty much the finisher of the deck, and it combos off well by just getting rid of creatures which can come back again. And like I said, with Sanctum of Ugin, this ability is whenever you cast a colourless spell with convert mana 7 or greater, you may sacrifice Sanctum of Ugin, and then you can search your deck for a colourless card. So if you have multiple Sanctum of Ugins out, you can keep getting more and more Elder Deep-fiends from your deck into your hand, and you can just keep playing them over and over and over again to tap your creatures down, maybe tap their mana down on your opponent, and just keep swinging in and win the game. And that's why we're playing 1 of Wretched Gryff, just because if we want to perhaps set off Kozilek's return, or get Sanctum of Ugin if we can't find an Elder Deep-fiend. And now we're on to the rest of the spells. We're playing a 4 of Lightning Axe. It's removal, and you discard a card, so you can discard more cards to the graveyard that you need to reanimate. A 4 of Tormenting Voice. This card's amazing. Discard a card, so you might want to discard a card to reanimate, and then you draw more. This is the same for Cathartic Reunion, which we're playing a 4 of Cathartic Reunion. Instead, you discard 2 cards and draw 3. Next, we're playing 2 copies of Kozilek's Return, which is a 3 mana card, and this is used to combo off with your emerge cards. You can play it early on if they're playing a lot of small creatures with low toughness. I mean, it does 2 damage to each creature, but its second ability, I mean, you can discard this card early in the game, and you can use it as a backup card. If you then emerge in some sort of Eldrazi, you can deal 5 damage across the board, so it's a very, very good removal card. Very strong against green-black counters as well in Standard at the moment. Next card we're playing is a 2 of Fevered Visions, which I used to have this in the sideboard, but I felt like it's stronger in the main board, and then if you need to, you can sideboard it out. The best part about this deck, I find, is if you end up drawing a Fevered Visions, but you end up playing against an aggro deck, of course you're not going to play the Fevered Visions because you're going to just be helping them get more cards, which they're going to dump out straight away. Fevered Visions, if you draw the card, you can just easily discard it with Advanced Stitchwing or Stitchwing Skaab at the end of the day. It can just be a dud card that you end up discarding and just don't care about. But of course you will sideboard it in the second game. But I put this in the main board, 2 of, just because we can get the card draw. And especially if we're playing against control decks, this deck is very, very weak against control. We can just keep making them draw cards and lose 2 life every turn, especially the fact that a lot of the control decks are sort of waiting to respond to the opponent, so you could sit there and not play anything if you want to. You could just sit there and get 8 cards in hand, discard a card each turn, whilst they're losing 2 life, so it really makes them act upon it. Of course, if they don't counter it. And then the last one we're playing is a 3 of Fury Temper, which of course combos up with a discard because of you can use as madness, and it's good removal at the end of the day. Now we're going to the lands. We're playing a 4 of Spirebluff Canal, a 4 of Highland Lake. We're playing 6 mountains and 6 islands. And then we will be playing 4 Sanctum of Ugins, like I mentioned earlier, and like I mentioned with the ability, being able to sacrifice Sanctum of Ugin to get another Elder Deep-fiend is an amazing card. Now we'll go on to the sideboard for the deck. We are playing another 2 Fevered Visions for the sideboard, so of course if you're playing against control you might want to add a 4 of Fevered Visions just to make sure you can get it in your hand. And then we're playing a 3 of Negates, just to counter non-target creature spells, especially against control. 1 of Spell Shrivel, a 1 of Void Shatter, interesting card I put in, 2 of Spontaneous Mutation, which is 1 blue, and it has flash. And you can enchant a target creature and it gets -X, -0, where X is the number of cards in your graveyard. I absolutely love this card against decks which are playing big creatures that we can't deal with. I found with test playing this deck, especially when we're playing against control, if they're playing Torrential Gearhulk, it's difficult to get to remove it. If I know they have Torrential Gearhulk in the deck and they're not playing many creatures, I will generally sideboard out stuff like Lightning Axe, because Torrential Gearhulk has got 6 toughness, so for me I think you can combat that using Spontaneous Mutation. We're going to have plenty of cards in the graveyard, and just equipping it to something like a Torrential Gearhulk means it's just going to be sitting there as a blocker and not attacking, because I found with the deck Torrential Gearhulk can just keep swinging at us constantly. Then we're playing a 1 of Revolutionary Rebuff, which is a card from Kaladesh. We're playing a 1 of a Fury Temper if you want a bit more burn into the deck. 1 of Wretched Gryff if you want to try and see if you can pull off Kozilek's Return a bit more. And then we're playing a 3 of Insolent Neonate, which I've put in there as a replacement, maybe perhaps if you're playing against an aggro deck. If you can play this turn 1, they're going to be a bit more reluctant to swing in against you. I mean, instead you could replace this with another 2 Kozilek's Return in the sideboard. A lot of people play 4 of Kozilek's Return in this deck. Unfortunately, I do not have the copies of those at the moment. If I did, I'd probably have a 3 of in the deck, and then 1 of in the sideboard. But like I said, this deck, playing blue-red, you've got all the counters, you've got all the burn spells in standard, and the deck works so well. I'm not really a control player. I normally like to play aggro to mid-range decks, but this deck is amazing, absolutely amazing. You will find that you will be barely playing any cards on your turn, and really you want to the deck wants to sort of get into the swing of things where you are drawing cards, discarding cards, being able to constantly emerge cards and just win through either emerge or in the air with your zombies. However, the big con to the deck is probably its starting hand. If you don't have something like a discard, if you don't have a card that can discard something, like a Cathartic Reunion or a Tormenting Voice, and you don't have a Stitchwing Skaab or an Advanced Stitchwing in your hand, this deck is going to be very, very difficult to start off and start playing that match. So it can be quite fragile. So I've found myself mulliganing with this deck quite a few times just because I didn't have any discard outlets, or I didn't have any Stitchwing Skaabs or Advanced Stitchwings in my hand, which made things very difficult. You can go on the different routes if you are happy with your 7-card hand, but you haven't got anything to discard with. You can pick up the 8th card and don't play anything, and then discard something like an Advanced Stitchwing or a Stitchwing Skaab instead of playing anything to start the ball rolling. You can do that. Still a little bit risky. I find also if you mulligan with this deck, the lower you go with your starting card hand, the more difficult it is going to be to win, because of course with this deck you're discarding a lot of cards to the graveyard, and if you were having a smaller starting card size hand, it's not going to work at all. So yes, that's it. That's all I can say about the deck. Thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe to the channel, like the video, and comment to give me your suggestions for this deck, because I would love to hear them. So thank you very much. Goodbye.